She kissed our daughter goodnight, and then called my brother, Daddy. It happened so fast I almost thought I imagined it. She leaned down, tucked the blanket around Emily, kissed her forehead, and whispered, "Sleep tight, baby. Daddy and I love you." Then she turned, and saw me standing in the doorway. Her face didn't register shock, just stillness. Not a single flinch. That's what stayed with me the most. Emily was already half asleep. I could have let it go, chalked it up to exhaustion, a slip of the tongue. But it wasn't just what she said. It was how she said it. Soft, familiar, natural. Like she'd said it 100 times before, just never in front of me. I didn't confront her. Not then. Not in front of our daughter. I walked downstairs, poured myself a glass of water, and sat in the dark living room until the ice melted and the walls began to feel like strangers. That night, I barely slept. I kept trying to convince myself it was nothing, a weird moment, a misheard word, a mental glitch. But the more I tried to forget it, the louder it got. The next morning, I asked Emily what she'd dreamed about. She said, "I don't remember. But I think Daddy was flying." Then she paused. "Not you. The other Daddy. The other Daddy." I smiled. Said nothing. Helped her get ready for school. My wife, Sarah, was already in the kitchen, acting like nothing had happened. Making coffee. Reading emails. Humming. I kissed her on the cheek. She didn't look up. We'd been married 12 years. Long enough to know when something was broken. I started noticing things I hadn't let myself see before. Subtle things. Emily always ran to my brother, Jake, when he visited. He picked her up with ease, like he'd done it 1,000 times. She called him Jakey. He called her baby girl. Too familiar. Too easy. Jake had always been around. We were close growing up, inseparable. He was the wild one. The charming one. The one who never stayed in one place long enough to take responsibility for anything. I was the one who built a life. So how did he end up this close to mine? That night, I checked old photos. From birthdays, holidays, random weekends. Jake was always there. Even before Sarah and I were married, he hovered in the background. At first, I thought it was just how families worked, chaotic, overlapping, shared. But then I noticed a pattern. He was there for Emily's first steps, I wasn't. I was away at a client retreat. Sarah had said he'd just dropped by that day. He was there at her second birthday party, holding her when she cried, feeding her cake. In almost every picture of me and Emily, Jake was nearby. And in one, just one, I saw something I couldn't unsee. Sarah standing beside Jake, not realizing the camera had caught them both, her hand resting lightly on his arm, her eyes looking up at him, not me. Not in guilt, in comfort. That was the moment I stopped wondering if I was imagining things. Because deep down, I already knew the truth. Now I just needed proof. For weeks, I lived a double life. By day, I went through the motions. Work, school drop-offs, dinners, conversations about groceries and weekend plans. Sarah and I still shared a bed, still shared a bank account, still signed forms together. But every moment I was near her, something inside me recoiled. I couldn't tell if it was grief, or shame, or a mix of both, but it sat in my chest like a stone. By night, I sifted through years of digital dust. Old texts, calendars, bank statements, cloud backups, deleted voicemails. I wasn't looking for dirt. I was looking for a pattern. And I found one. Innocent details, maybe, to someone else. But to me, they formed a map. A recurring Airbnb booking in a city Jake once lived in, under Sarah's email. A pair of earrings she once told me were a gift from her mother, ordered online, billed to Jake's account. A photo from a mutual friend's wedding, taken 6 months before Emily was born, where Jake and Sarah were seated together, even though I remembered RSVPing with her as my guest. But what hit me the hardest was a video. I found it buried in an old external drive from an outdated backup. The file name was meaningless, a string of numbers. I almost skipped it. It opened with a handheld shot of Sarah, clearly filming herself. She was young, pre-Emily, pregnant, and smiling. Jake's voice off camera said, "Say hi to the baby." She turned to the lens and said, "Hi, baby. Daddy loves you." Her voice wasn't speaking to me. I paused the video, closed the laptop, sat in silence for a full hour. I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I didn't even feel rage. Just confirmation. The kind that drains you. I had built my life around a lie. A beautiful lie, yes, but a lie all the same. And what haunted me most wasn't that Sarah had cheated. It wasn't even that Jake, my brother, had fathered the child I had raised and loved as my own. It was that they'd let me be the fool for so long. Let me believe I was needed, wanted, chosen. I started replaying every moment of fatherhood with new eyes. The times Emily reached for Jake first. The way Sarah softened when he walked into a room. How often Jake just happened to be there, always passing through, always in the neighborhood. It was all so obvious. But love makes you blind. Or maybe worse, it makes you willing. I began pulling away. Not noticeably. Not enough to raise flags. Just enough to start detaching. One less question at dinner. One less kiss goodnight. One more night working late. Sarah didn't ask what was wrong. Jake didn't notice. Or maybe he did. And he assumed I would never do anything about it. Because that was who I'd always been, the reliable one. The safe one. The easy one to lie to. But that version of me, he was dying. And the man who was growing in his place. He didn't want revenge. He wanted the truth. And once he had it, he'd decide who deserved to hear it, and who didn't. It was a Wednesday when I got the message. Just one sentence. No sender name. No greeting. You're the only one who doesn't know. That was it. No context. No follow-up. I stared at the screen for a full minute. Thought about deleting it. Blocking the number. Pretending it was spam. But it wasn't. Something about the phrasing. The cold precision of it. It wasn't meant to hurt me. It was meant to wake me up. So I dug deeper. I started revisiting conversations I'd brushed off years ago. Little things people had said in passing, things that felt off at the time, but I'd chalked up to stress or insecurity. Like when my aunt, after too many glasses of wine at Thanksgiving, had leaned in and said, "You're such a good man," raising her like that. I thought she was talking about fatherhood in general. I smiled, said thanks. She blinked, looked embarrassed, and changed the subject. Or that time my best friend Mike, who'd known Jake and me since we were kids, joked that Jake always got there first. I'd laughed it off, assuming he meant Sarah's affections back in college. Now I wasn't so sure. I went further back. Photos. Journals. Emails. Medical records. And then I found the one thing that made everything click. Emily's birth certificate. I'd never looked at it closely. Never needed to. I was there in the hospital. Held her in my arms minutes after she was born. But the date? The conception date didn't match when Sarah and I were actively together. She told me she was pregnant after a surprise weekend getaway we'd had, but according to this, she was already 6 weeks along before that trip. I confronted no one. Instead, I made a plan. I ordered a home DNA kit, one of the ones that gets mailed discreetly. Swabbed my mouth, sent it off, waited. 2 weeks. It felt like an eternity. In that time, I acted normal. Picked up groceries. Helped with school projects. Took Emily to the park. Watched Sarah text someone late at night, always angled away from me. I didn't ask who. I already knew. When the results came, I didn't open them right away. I let the envelope sit on my desk for a full day. Just stared at it. Like if I didn't open it, I could keep pretending I still had a place in this story. But I did open it. And the words were simple. Probability of paternity, 0%. I sat there, staring at the page, not blinking. Not breathing. Then I laughed. It was a hollow sound. Dry. Lifeless. Because deep down, I already knew. But seeing it in print made it permanent. I wasn't Emily's biological father. Jake was. And suddenly, the message made perfect sense. You're the only one who doesn't know. They all knew. Sarah. Jake. My mother, probably. Maybe even Emily, in some subconscious, unspoken way. Kids are smarter than we give them credit for. I looked around the house. Everything I had done, the walls I'd painted, the furniture I'd built, the bills I'd paid, all of it had been for a life I wasn't actually part of. I wasn't the husband. I wasn't the father. I was the placeholder. The stand-in. The fool. But that ended now. Because if they were going to write me out of the script, then I was going to flip the whole damn story. On my terms. And no one, not Sarah, not Jake, not even the version of me they thought they knew, was going to see it coming. The next morning, I made pancakes. Blueberry, Emily's favorite. She smiled when I flipped one in the air like I used to when she was little. Sarah walked into the kitchen still half asleep, kissed Emily on the head, and didn't say a word to me. I watched them both eat, watched the ease between them, and I realized something strange. I didn't hate them. Not Emily. Not even Sarah. I just didn't belong to them anymore. So I finished my coffee, washed my plate, and packed a small overnight bag. No suitcase. No fanfare. I told Sarah I had a last-minute work trip and would be gone a few days. She barely looked up from her phone. Emily hugged me at the door. "Don't forget the pancakes next time," she whispered. I nodded. Then I walked out of the house I'd paid for, built memories in, repaired and repainted and maintained like my own soul was embedded in the drywall, and I didn't look back. I didn't go to work. I went to a town I used to visit on long drives, 2 hours away. Booked a room for a week. Paid cash. No questions. Then I turned off my phone. For the first time in over a decade, I wasn't reachable. Not for questions. Not for groceries. Not for homework, or late-night arguments, or tax documents. I sat in that quiet room and let the silence wrap around me like a blanket. At first, it felt unnatural. The lack of obligation, the absence of noise. But slowly, it turned into peace. I started running again. Every morning. No headphones. Just me and the pavement. I read old journals. Remembered who I was before I was trying to be everything to everyone. I cooked for one. Slept in without guilt. Walked for hours with no destination. And during that week, not a single call came from Sarah. Not one message. Not one check-in. Jake didn't call either. Of course he didn't. Because the truth wasn't just that they had betrayed me. It was that they never expected me to leave. They thought I would stay. That I would swallow it all like I always had, quietly, with a nod, because that's what I did. But that man, he was gone. On the 6th day, I emailed my lawyer. I didn't want revenge. I wanted separation. Clean. Silent. Final. The divorce papers were drafted within a week. I signed everything without adding comments. No fight over assets. No custody demands. I didn't even put a reason under grounds. Let them guess. Sarah didn't respond for 3 days. Then a one-line email, "We need to talk." I didn't answer. I wasn't angry anymore. I just wasn't hers anymore. I rented a loft in the city under a different name. Took my savings. Resigned from my position and accepted a new role out of state as a silent CTO for a mid-stage tech firm. Remote. Private. High pay, low profile, exactly what I needed. Over the next few months, I disappeared from their world entirely. My name was scrubbed from the school records. My contact was removed from family calendars. Holidays came and went. I got a generic Christmas email from Sarah. I didn't open it. Emily's birthday passed. I mailed a card, and signed, but with a small drawing I used to doodle on her lunchbox. I don't know if she recognized it. I hope she did. But I didn't ask. I had learned to stop asking. And then one morning, I woke up and realized. I didn't miss them. Not anymore. I missed the idea of them. The version I had built in my head, the one where I was needed, respected, loved. But that version had never been real. The real version was built on silence, secrets, and a name I never truly earned. And if that was the family I'd been fighting to stay in, then maybe walking away wasn't the loss. Maybe it was the first real choice I'd ever made for myself. 7 years passed. Not quietly, not for me. I built something real. My name never made headlines, but people in the right rooms knew who I was. The platform I helped develop, secure infrastructure for fintech companies, quietly became the backbone for dozens of firms across the country. I invested. I advised. I stayed private. I owned property now, homes in 3 states. Never lavish, always intentional. I kept my life clean. Precise. And then one day, I received an invitation. Not a call. Not a message. A formal envelope. A school gala. Fundraiser. Name listed among distinguished alumni families. My name. Apparently, Emily's school, the same one she'd been enrolled in since grade school, had grown, become exclusive. They were honoring parents, donors, and former students who had contributed to their legacy. My company had donated anonymously 3 years prior. I hadn't even known the connection. But now, my name was on their list. I looked at the paper for a long time. I hadn't seen Emily since the day I left. I didn't know if she knew who her real father was. Or if she thought I'd simply vanished like a ghost. But I decided to go. I wore a black suit. Nothing flashy. Clean lines, quiet wealth. A different man than the one who used to mow the lawn every Saturday morning and kiss Sarah's cheek while she scrolled past him. When I stepped into the event space, no one noticed. That was perfect. I blended in. Watched. Observed. Emily was there. Taller. Older. Beautiful. Confident. She was laughing with someone, her boyfriend, maybe. She looked happy. I didn't approach. Sarah was there too. And Jake. Still together. Still public. But they looked different now. Older, yes. But also, strained. She smiled too tightly. He drank too quickly. They hadn't seen me yet. Until the speech. One of the school's directors took the stage and began reading the list of honored guests. When he said my name, my full name, I watched Sarah freeze. Her eyes darted to the crowd. Jake followed. Their gazes swept the room, unsure, searching. Then they landed on me. And for a moment, the world stopped. No confrontation. No wave. No reaction. Just shock. I didn't flinch. I smiled, just enough to be polite, then turned back to my drink. The evening went on. They didn't approach. But I felt them watching. At the end of the night, I walked out quietly, the way I'd walked out of that house years ago, without slamming a door. In the parking lot, a voice called my name. It wasn't Sarah. It was Emily. She walked slowly, cautiously, like approaching a memory she wasn't sure was real. "Is it you?" she asked. I nodded. She looked at me for a long time, then said, "You look different." I told her, "So do you." She asked if I was coming back. And I said, gently, "No. Just passing through." She didn't cry. She just looked sad. Then she reached into her purse and pulled out something small. A folded piece of paper. "I used to keep this," she said. "You drew it on my napkins when you made my lunches." It was the doodle, the one I'd sent her on that unsigned birthday card years ago. I smiled. Told her I was proud of her. That was all. Then I left. Didn't give a number. Didn't promise to keep in touch. She deserved the truth, not another story. And the truth was, I was a ghost in her life now. But for one quiet moment, I was real again. And that was enough. A few weeks later, Jake lost everything. Not in a dramatic, fiery collapse. No lawsuits. No scandals. Just, slow erosion. One of the companies I had influence over, a firm Jake had once begged me to invest in years ago, quietly pulled their funding from his latest venture. A few background calls, a polite audit, and a trail of careless decisions was all it took. In 6 months, his accounts were frozen. His investors disappeared. His name went cold in the industry. I never spoke to him. Never revealed who was behind it. That was the point. I didn't want revenge. I wanted to erase the illusion he had ever been the better man. Sarah reached out once. A letter. Handwritten. I didn't read it right away. Left it on my desk for days. Then finally opened it one morning after a run. It was short. Apologetic. Rambling. She said she hadn't known how to stop what had happened. That it had started before she realized the cost. That she thought I'd understand eventually. She asked if we could meet. She said Emily missed me. She said she missed me too. I folded the letter back up and put it in a drawer. I didn't respond. I wasn't angry anymore. I just didn't owe her anything. I had spent years trying to be the man they needed, dependable, steady, present. And when the truth came out, they didn't fight to keep me. They simply let me disappear. So I let them stay in the silence they had chosen. Not because I wanted to hurt them, but because I had finally learned to protect myself. Emily reached out once more, months later. Just a message. I got accepted to NYU. No ask. No attachment. Just pride. I wrote back, "You always could do anything." She hearted it. That was all. And that was enough. Because the little girl who once called me Daddy, even if I wasn't, still remembered who packed her lunches. Who made blueberry pancakes. Who showed up every time, no matter what. I may not have been her biological father. But I was the man who showed her what love looked like. And maybe that's what mattered most. I didn't take my daughter back. I took my name. The one I'd spent a lifetime building. And for the first time in years. It felt like mine again.